Hey, it's Lara here with your weekly Witchy Wednesday astrology video, this time for the week of April 10th to 16th, 2019. Welcome. Thanks for being here. So I've decided this week I'm going to do things just a teeny bit differently, and you may or may not notice on your end, but you can let me know. Normally, I take quite a while to prep notes for the video. My Mercury square Neptune kind of makes it easier for me to do it that way. But what I've decided to do this week is just give it a go with, I have one little old page of notes here, and I'm just going to go for it and see what comes through, right? See what comes out and see if it makes sense and it's coherent, and if the message is resonant and all of that. So we'll see how it goes. This is an experiment because, as you know, I had mentioned a couple of videos back that I was sort of thinking about changing the way I present the information, meaning just giving you an overview and then perhaps doing like written horoscopes or, for the sign by sign piece, a few different options anyways. And so I'm just going to see if I can kind of cut down on the time it takes me to prep as one way of finding a little more time for myself to do other things, right? So I'm doing a lot of readings these days, and it's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for all of you who have put your trust in me to do that for you. And if you want to know how to get your own personal reading or order one for somebody as a gift, then you can do that at my website, and the link is always below. And if you have any questions, reach out, let me know. I'm really, one of the things I'm trying to find more time for is to do a few little tweaks on my website, offer a few different things, change my pricing a little bit. But it's just, things have been crazy. And on that note, I'm going to tell you a little story in a bit here about a crazy thing that happened to us on Friday. And it kind of relates to the astrology. I'm going to use it as a metaphor for what's going on for all of us. If you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you might already know what I'm talking about. And if you're interested in connecting there, you can do that. The links are below. So let's get on with it. Other thing is one other quick thing. Sorry. Glasses. Here I am with my glasses again because I had to go to the eye doctor today again. If you've been around for a bit, you've heard me. I've had this ongoing eye issue for a couple of months now. And anyway, now I have to go to a specialist. So it'll all be fine. It's just a pain. So sometimes I'm wearing these glasses. Anyway, we've got the moon today entering Cancer later tonight, entering the sign of Cancer. And when the moon's in Cancer, we like to be close to home usually, and we like to be hanging with our tribe, the people that we consider our family or our close family. We like to be in our cozy space and feel secure and safe. And, we can also tend to be a bit sensitive too. The moon rules Cancer, right? Rules our emotions. So that can be the case. And then the moon is moving into Leo on Saturday and then into Virgo on Monday. But the big news this week is that, we've got a continuation, first off, throughout the month of April of something I mentioned to you last week, and that is that Pluto and Saturn and the South Node are all conjuncting, right? Meeting up right close in the sign of Capricorn. And I spoke to that in last week's video, specifically where that was hitting each of your charts, what house. And so you can go back and listen to that if you want the specifics. It's whatever area of the chart Capricorn sits for you. And I have a visitor, I think. And so that's where that's going on. And it's continuing to play out with some intensity for the month of April. this is kind of a longer term aspect, but the three, the South Node and Pluto and Saturn are all, quite close there at this point in time. And all of that energy is sextiling a whole bunch of energy that's going on in Pisces still, which is, and I'm going to show you the chart in a minute. We've got Neptune, we've got Venus, right conjunct Neptune at 17 degrees, which, side note, happens to be right on top of my sun in Pisces at 17 degrees, and also Mercury there. And then we've got Jupiter in Sagittarius readying to retrograde. And so that's a big piece of what I'm going to talk to in this video. And we have the sun in Aries. Happy birthday to all the Aries folks. And the sun is making a square to that Saturn, Pluto, South Node conjunction, but it's trining Jupiter in Sagittarius. So, and remember, squares are conversations of tension, right? Where that tension needs to be resolved. And then trines and sextiles are conversations of greater sort of ease and flow and opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about, I think, a little bit more about the Pluto-Saturn South Node conjunction there in Capricorn. I did speak to it in last week's video. I want to re-emphasize it in this week's video because it's really important and we're feeling it intensely, as I said, in the month of April. And so it's worth, I think, just talking a little bit more about here. And if we break it down piece by piece, I think it's a good time to show you the chart right now. So here's the chart for today. Drew this up for today. And here's what I'm talking about specifically right now, right? Pluto, South Node, Saturn. See, 23 degrees, 22 degrees, 20 degrees, all in Capricorn there. And then we've got all this energy in Pisces, right? Neptune, conjunct Venus at 17, and then there's Mercury pretty close as well at 22, right? So this is all sextiling here, 60 degrees, right? And there's Jupiter up in Sagittarius here, readying to retrograde, so stationing to go retrograde. And Jupiter is trining, see those triangles? Trining the sun in Aries. But the sun in Aries is squaring all of this going on up here, right? Jupiter's loosely trining Uranus and Taurus as well. And then there's Mars in Gemini. The moon is right now in Gemini, but moving into Cancer. And then we've got the North Node in Cancer there. So, and Chiron, of course, at 2 degrees of Aries right now. So, there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? You can see this energy all in that area of the chart. And so, Pluto, South Node, and Saturn. We've all been doing a lot of work over, since kind of late 2017, throughout 2018, into 2019, and this is going to continue, but I don't know if, some of you can sense this, but it's sort of feeling very much like we are perhaps through the real toughest part in many ways. And that is particularly when I'm speaking like in terms of our own personal lives, right? Our own personal charts. If we have been proceeding with integrity, and that's the Jupiter piece, and I'm going to speak to that. That's kind of the way that I see it. And all the energy in Pisces is helping us see kind of the spiritual, or the perhaps the more the higher purpose for all of this that we have been going through. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, right? You've heard me say that before. It's the 12th sign of the zodiac. So the cycle in many ways is completing in Pisces. Pisces has been through it all and is integrating all that it has experienced, right? In order to release and kind of move on to the next realm, right? And then this cycle begins again in Aries, right? So that's kind of how I see when I look at the chart. That's sort of what it feels like for me. And I think that the astrology, supports that. So with the conjunction happening in Capricorn, as I've mentioned to you before, this hard work we've all been doing in one particular area of life. And this is about, right, we'll break it down piece by piece. Saturn, which is the structures, the our like responsibilities and maturity, and being on a timeline, obstacles, requiring hard work, really wants us to do things the right way, not the easy way. And also, kind of likes to see material results. And then we've got Pluto there. And Pluto is saying, okay, stuff needs to change here, and things need to be dismantled in order to be rebuilt. We need to burn it down to build it up, right? I always give you the imagery of, with Pluto and Scorpio energy, the phoenix rising from the ashes. Pluto's the ruler of Scorpio, right? The modern ruler. In ancient times, it used to be Mars before Pluto was discovered. But so it's, as I said to you last week, I think, right? It's the phoenix rising from the ashes, but it has to be burned up first. So, and that part's not really super fun. So things need to be burned up. They need to be dismantled in order to, they need to be probed. We need to look at the deeper truths of things. The toxins need to be purged. This is all Pluto imagery. And then the South Node there, the South Node is about our past. And it's about what we've gotten so good at that, it's really our comfort zone, even if it's not that great for us anymore, even if it's not that comfortable for us anymore. It's sort of, the South Node can kind of be about keeping us stuck in certain patterns and ways of being. And it's also about our attachments to, like karmic. It's a very karmic time right now with all of this going on the South Node. A time of releasing and purging the past, of letting go of, things that are not serving our highest good anymore. Of perhaps purging, family karma, ancestral trauma, and just generally not resisting what wants to be let go of. So you can see how those three pieces together can be pretty intense, right? That it's making for some pretty serious transformation and change in the Capricorn area of the chart. And on a global level, that's all about, you know, the patriarchy and our institutions and traditions and, you know, rules and regulations and all of that we can see, you know, being dismantled bit by bit all around us. Some people don't want to admit that's happening. They want to resist it tooth and nail. They want to hang on, you know, to it all. But ultimately, Pluto doesn't really care what you want to hang on to. Pluto is just going to come in there and, like I said, burn it up, right? In order to rebuild. So that can be scary, or it can be really, really liberating. And that's the way I choose to approach it. And with this gentle kind of Pisces energy that's still in the mix here, you know, that's offering us, I think, some support, some compassion, some empathy, maybe a spiritual, like I said, seeing the spiritual bent behind it all. Also, though, you know, Pisces can have on the shadow side the tendency to see through rose-colored glasses, be a bit delusional, escape in not so healthy ways. And so, you know, we could choose to take that road too. It's always up to us. So there's those two pieces. And then there's Jupiter. And this is what I want to kind of spend the rest of the time talking about. And then before I quickly go through each sign, I'm going to tell you my little story that I mentioned. So Jupiter is about to go retrograde in Sagittarius, right? And it's going to, it does this every year. So it takes about 12, 13 months for Jupiter to go around the chart, around the zodiac. And it does go retrograde every year for about 4 months. And so it's going retrograde until August 11th, I believe. And this is not like Mercury retrograde in the sense that, you know, Mercury moves really quickly. And so when Mercury goes retrograde, it can be kind of a bit, you know, chaotic and bumpy. Jupiter is a much slower moving planet. When it goes retrograde, and also it's known as a benefic, right? Like, so it's positive, optimistic, hopeful, expansive, aiming at the truth, and very much about perspective and integrity. Those are two key words I want you to keep in mind. So when Jupiter goes retrograde, you know, it's closer to the Earth, right? It looks closer. And it's kind of like we get a pause into Jupiterian matter. So like I said, Jupiter's about expansion. And so we've been expanding in some way, shape, or form in whatever area of the chart Jupiter sits for each of us. And then on the global stage, you know, Sagittarius is about kind of like new discoveries. There's all kinds of really interesting discoveries that are happening right now. They just found this massive crater in the ice field in Greenland. Anyway, that's a total side note. But so it's about discoveries. It's about seeking the truth and justice and integrity, the big picture, you know, all of that. And so that's been expanding most definitely globally for us, right? On the world stage. But for each of us, this is about where Sagittarius sits in the chart. So we've been expanding in some way. Sometimes Jupiter can expand out of control. So Jupiter retrograde is a perfect opportunity to rein it in a bit, right? To go, okay, things have been like growing, in whatever area of my life, particularly. And now it's time for us to kind of go internal with that, to get some insight, right, into what we believe. Jupiter is about our beliefs, our morals, our ethics, in Sagittarius in particular. You know, what do we really believe about whatever area of the chart it's sitting in for us, right? And this is happening, this Jupiter retrograde. It's to help us kind of get straight and be in integrity. And then when Jupiter moves direct again, we can continue to expand, but we can make sure that we are expanding in the right direction for us, on the right path, in alignment with our truth, with our soul, with our integrity. And it allows us to really focus on that area of our chart, right? To kind of put it under the microscope a little bit and to be more intentional about what we want to grow there. So, and this is, you know, it's the beginning of a 12-year cycle in that area of our chart, because it won't be back in Sagittarius for another 12 years kind of thing, right? But integrity and perspective are really the key words here. So we want to look at whatever area of the chart, and I'm going to get to that shortly, that Sag is sitting in for us. Are we acting in integrity? Are we standing in our truth? Are we, what do we believe about these life areas, right? Do we need to make some adjustments there? And then we've got, you know, Jupiter also and Sagittarius brings optimism and faith. So we can, when we are aligned, when we're acting in integrity, we can then have faith that it's all going to work out, right? Even though we've been through perhaps hell and back. And on that note, we have Jupiter trining the sun as well, like it's exact on the 14th, which some astrologers say is a really, you know, lucky day. But ultimately, I think for me, in the bigger picture, that is just kind of re-emphasizing what I just said to you about having faith and optimism that things will work out, providing we are coming from a place of integrity, right? And so that brings me to my story that I want to tell you in case you haven't heard it yet on Facebook or Instagram. You may, depends on how long you've been watching my channel or been following me on social media, or how long you've known me. You may recall that some time ago, 21 months to be exact, our cat, one of our cats went missing. It was the only cat we had at the time. We now have 2 other cats. Her name was Nigella. She was very special. Came to us in an unusual way, and I won't go into all those details, but the thing is on Friday, she came back to us. And when I say came back, I don't mean she showed up at the door. You know, this all happened through a series of events. Somebody trapped her in the next kind of neighborhood over from us, which is up the highway a bit, maybe about 5 kilometers, I guess, up the highway or so. Maybe not quite that much. And she had obviously been living and surviving on her own this whole time. And, you know, the woman who trapped her had seen pictures that we had posted. She got in touch with us. And anyways, to make a long story short, she's back, and she's back with us. And this was like, it was a miracle, really. I mean, really, it was a miracle. And so she's a little shell-shocked, but right back into her same old routine, and quickly has established who's the queen of the house with the other 2 male cats. And this, I feel like this is a metaphor for what each of us has endured for the last you know, year and a half, give or take. And it's like, it reminds me of this, one of my favorite quotes I may have mentioned here before, by Charles Bukowski. What matters most is how well we walk through the fire, right? And that is very much the image of the phoenix rising. And so this little old cat, and she's a teeny weeny thing, like I think when the vet weighed her, she was just over 3 kilos, and she's full grown adult. And she's lost some weight, and that's what we're trying to fatten her up. But she was looking pretty rough in terms of very matted. We had to have most of her shaved, but she is in otherwise very good health. So she's done a really good job of walking through that fire, right? She has been a survivor. Goodness knows what has happened to her if she could only talk. But she's back. She's back where she belongs. And so, and we had, you know, we had hope in the sense that, like, we didn't want to be delusional about it, but we were still keeping an eye out for her. We were still checking the groups, the missing pets, you know, Facebook groups and all of that. And just before, like the day before we found her, I was sitting here at my desk, and I have a picture of her on my wall, and I looked at the picture, and I just thought, I wonder if she's still out there, you know? And then I sat with that for a minute, and then I kind of brushed it aside because it kind of hurts, right? You don't really want to get your hopes up. And then the next morning, we woke up to this Facebook message. So that's kind of like a metaphor for what's going on for all of us. I really do feel that. She's kind of the poster cat for this whole, you know, Pluto, Saturn, South Node conjunction, and then the Jupiter and Sagittarius piece, and, you know, even the Pisces piece to a degree in there. So I wanted to share that story with you. And hopefully that gives you a sense of what's possible, right? So with that, I'm going to move on to talk about, very briefly, I'm going to do this pretty quickly, Jupiter retrograding through the signs. And I want you to, if you're interested in the Capricorn piece, I'll just mention what house Capricorn is in, but I have other videos, like even last week I spoke more about that in last week's video. So if you want to go listen to that, you can. But I'm gonna focus on where Jupiter is sitting in the chart for us. And so this will be the area kind of in your life, whatever house this is sitting for you, where it's time to evaluate, where have things been growing and expanding? What is my truth in this area of life? What do I really believe? Are my beliefs and actions in alignment? Am I in integrity? Am I saying one thing and doing another in this area of life? You know, are my actions and my words and my thoughts and all of that aligned? You know, and also I want you to realize that even if there are challenges and obstacles and bumps along the way, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep on keeping on. Reach out for support if you need it. And know that, you know, with faith and optimism, things are going to work out as they should. Does that mean everything's rainbows and unicorns? No, that's not life. That's not life. But things can be a lot better than we imagine they can be. Especially if we look at the difficult times that we've endured as being there for a reason, right? That Pisces piece, as trying to teach us something, as helping us level up, helping our soul's evolution, all of that. So I could go on and on, you know, riffing with y'all here, but I'm gonna go into Jupiter retrograde through each of the signs. So I'm gonna start with Sagittarius, because Sag, obviously this is happening in your sign, right? So Jupiter's retrograding in your sign, and it's asking you to to kind of take a pause and say, where have I been expanding, or where have things been growing? What is my truth? Am I standing in integrity in terms of who I present myself as out in the world? Am I showing people who I really am, or am I doing one thing behind closed doors and something else out publicly, right? Where do I stand in terms of like my physical body, my physical appearance? Am I feeling like my appearance is reflective of who I really am? This could be about literal physical expansion in some way too, right? And maybe, you know, you're looking at reining it in a little. I don't know. That's just, it's one possibility. But ultimately, it's kind of like, is who I am out there, who I am showing the world, is my approach to the world, is the first impression that I'm making, is the image I'm putting forth in alignment with who I truly am, right? Is it in integrity? What's the truth of that? What do I believe about who I really am? You know, and how I want to present myself and all of that. So that's for you, Sag. And then the Capricorn, the conjunction in Capricorn, Pluto, South Node, Saturn is happening in your second house. Okay, so you can go back to last week's video and hear a little bit more about that if you want. You know, and I didn't mention the word perspective there when I was talking about the Jupiter piece, but keep that in mind as well. So moving on to Capricorn, we've got Jupiter in your 12th house. And this is like reflecting on your spiritual growth, reflecting on perhaps the ways, like, have your bad habits kind of spiraled out of control, expanded, you know, your self-sabotaging habits? Have you been spending too much time, like, growing, because that's Jupiter, right? Expanding your solitude, like being by yourself kind of thing? Or what do you feel about that? How do you spend your alone time? Are you in integrity there? Do you, how do you feel about that? What do you believe about it? What do you believe about your connection to spirit? This is all 12th house stuff. This can also have, the 12th house can have to do with loss sometimes too. So this may be a shifting of perspective there in terms of something you have lost over this transit, and you know how you are dealing with that on, you know, a subconscious level. 12th house is also about our subconscious. It's about all those things and places that are behind closed doors, not really seen by the outside world. So this is where Jupiter wants you to reflect, wants you to be in integrity, wants you to align yourself, be in your truth, and be ready then when it goes direct to then move forward on the right path when it comes to all of these things in August, right? Okay, moving on to Aquarius. Jupiter is in your 11th house. That's where Sag is for you, Aquarius. And so this is asking you, are you in integrity in your friendship groups? You know, it's time to reflect on that a little bit and to see, you know, your connection to groups and organizations and to the collective in general. And also your visions, you know, and dreams for the future. Are you in alignment with the right people? Are you, has your circle expanded? And maybe it's time to take a look at, you know, the truth of that and how you feel about that, and, you know, what it is that you might want to. It's kind of like getting right with your friendship groups on an internal level. You know, friendship groups, organizations, associations, networks, all of that. Again, hopes and dreams for the future. It's about kind of reevaluating all of that and making sure that you're in integrity there, so that when Jupiter goes direct in August, you're ready to push forward and grow and expand on the right path again when it comes to those 11th house things. And then Capricorn's in the 12th for you. So you can listen back to last week's video. And Capricorn, obviously, I missed telling you that Capricorn is obviously in your first house, right? If you're interested in that. And then, okay, moving on from Aquarius now to Pisces. Pisces, Jupiter is in your 10th house, retrograding in your 10th. And so this is a time to kind of reevaluate the growth that's gone on in terms of your career, of your public reputation, your, your public image. Like when I say public image, it's like, I'm looking for a phrase that's lost on me right now. But really, it's about your worldly ambitions, your public reputation, your relationship to authority. And so Jupiter is retrograding here, and it's saying, okay, are you in alignment in this area of life? Are you in integrity here? The growth that has happened for you, does it need some readjusting for you to feel like you are on, the right path? Ultimately, when Jupiter goes direct in August, can you then, if you sort of reevaluate how you feel about all these things and what the truth of all of this is for you, then you'll be ready to grow in the right direction, right? In terms of your career and all of those things, public reputation and ambitions and relationship to authority. This can even have to do with government, or it can have to do with, when I say relationship to authority, that can mean your own authority as well. So that's for you, Pisces. And then the conjunction in Capricorn is happening in your 11th house. So have a listen to last week's video if you want more info about that. Then moving on to Aries, Sagittarius is retrograding in your 9th house. And so, which is the actual natural home for Sagittarius, right? I don't know if I said Sagittarius is retrograding. Jupiter, ruler of Sagittarius, is retrograding in your 9th house for you, Aries. And so has there been a lot of growth and expansion in terms of your learning, in terms of teaching, in terms of your philosophy and your worldview and your belief system, in terms of travel or connections with foreign cultures? And so this is the area that Jupiter's been expanding for you. And now it's time to kind of sit back, take it all in, reflect, and go, okay, am I on the right path here in this area of life? Is this the truth for me? Is this what I really believe? It's time of reevaluating your beliefs and your ethics and, your morals and all of that. And then when Jupiter goes direct in August, you can then start outwardly expanding again in a direction that feels right and true for you. Okay, moving on. Oh, and Capricorn is sitting in your 10th house, Aries. So you know. You can listen to last week's video for more on that. Taurus, Jupiter is retrograding in your 8th house. So this has been expanding your connection to perhaps other people's resources. Taxes, loans, insurance payments, wills, inheritances, that kind of thing. It's been expanding those things, perhaps debt even. It can also be expanding on your intimate connections, on your, what's going on in the deep psyche for you, psychological healing, your sense of vulnerability. All of that can be what's Jupiter has been growing and expanding. And now it's time to turn inwards about all of those things and think, am I in integrity with this? Do I feel aligned? What do I really believe about all of these things? And what is my truth here? And then when Jupiter goes direct in August, you can move forward in these areas again. That's not to say nothing's going to grow between now and then, but it's just, it's a time to kind of slow it down and reflect on what's already happened there. And to adjust, right? And to get in integrity if you feel that that's not where you're currently at with those things. And then Capricorn's in the 9th house for you, Taurus. So have a listen to last week's video if you want about that. Moving on to Gemini, Sagittarius is in the 7th, so Jupiter's retrograde in the 7th for you. So have situations around one-to-one relationships been growing, expanding? You know, sort of, in sometimes that can be kind of growing in a sense that, you know, things have been changing there quite a bit and feeling a little bit maybe growing out of control even, because sometimes Jupiter brings that. But just expanding and growing with your one-to-one relationships and those relationships you consider with people that are equals, right? And so it's time to turn inward there and say, am I in integrity in these relationships? Am I, you know, acting from my truth? What do I truly believe about these relationships, about one-to-one relationships in general? And then once you've done that, come August, you can begin to grow in that area again, right? Or further, or on the right path, shall we say. Moving on to Cancer. Oh, Capricorn's in the 8th house for you, Gemini. So you know. Moving on to Cancer now. Cancer, Sag is in the 6th for you. So Jupiter's retrograding in the 6th. So there's been a lot of expansion in terms of your day-to-day, your daily grind. May have been a lot of stuff going on, you know, in terms of that. And also in terms of your health and wellness routines and things associated with health and wellness and how you are in service to others as well. Jupiter's been expanding that area in some way for you. So now it's time to kind of reflect and go, am I in integrity? Am I, for example, am I saying one thing about healthy eating, but then doing another thing entirely? That's just one example, right? Do I feel this way about how my daily routines should work, but that's not the way things have been happening? And how can I adjust that to be more in integrity with my daily routines and feel more aligned and in my truth there? So that's for you, Cancer, and Capricorn's in the 7th house for you. So moving on to Leo. Leo, Jupiter's retrograding in your 5th house, and this has been shining a big old spotlight and growing that area of the chart that has to do with your children, your creative self-expression, how you have fun. And so now it is time to go, am I in alignment here? You know, is my parenting in alignment with what I really feel? The truth is, with my beliefs, with my philosophy about how we raise kids? Or, you know, this can have to do with a creative project where it's time to kind of say, is this in alignment with what I really believe and what I really, you know, value? And then once we've gotten that aligned, come August, we can then continue to expand in that area of life, right? So that's for you, Leo. And then Capricorn sitting in the 6th house for you. So listen to last week's video for more on that. Moving on to Virgo, Sagittarius is in your 4th. So Jupiter's retrograding in the 4th house for you, Virgo. And so this could have seen some growth and expansion in your home, family life, in terms of your tribe, you know, and in terms of your emotional security and the attention being paid there. The foundations kind of thing. It can actually be your place of living even has been expanding and growing. And now it's time to kind of sit back and go, is this an integrity? How do I feel about this? What's the truth of all of this? Am I acting in integrity? Like if you've been doing a renovation, for example, have things gotten out of control and now it's time to step back and go, okay, what do I really want out of this? How do I really feel about this? And then, you know, you can start to move forward feeling better about being more on the right track in that department. And then Capricorn's in the 5th house for you, Virgo. So listen to last week's video for more on that. Then we have Libra, where Jupiter is retrograding in the 3rd house for you. And so this has been about your communications and your connections with cousins and siblings and neighbors and people in your community, your immediate environment. So things have been expanding there and growing there. And so now it's time to say, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about how I'm communicating, how my style of communication, how communications have been happening in general? You know, this can have to do with a daily commute as well. You know, how do I feel about these things? Am I in integrity here? What needs to be adjusted so that I feel more aligned and on the right path? And then Capricorn sitting in the 4th house for you. So have a listen to last week's video for more on that. And then last but not least here, we've got Scorpio, where Sagittarius is in the 2nd house. So Jupiter's retrograding through your area of finances, material possessions, resources, values, you know, all of that, your self-worth. So Scorpio, that area of life has been growing and expanding. And now it's time to kind of get aligned there and go. Ask yourself, you know, what's true for me here? How do I really feel about this? What do I believe about my resources, how I make my money, my material possessions, my self-worth, all of this? And to get in alignment with, you know, to get right with yourself there, to feel like you're on the right track before you continue to expand outward once Jupiter goes direct. And Capricorn's in the 3rd house for you, Scorpio. So have a listen to last week's video for more on that. So I got through all 12 signs there, and I hope that this format worked okay. It was the same length video, but I didn't have to do as much prep time for you. So let me know what you think. And unless it just sounded like a jumble of words to you, let me know that too, okay? So take care, everybody, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.